Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. If you've watched Issues and Answers throughout the past decade or two, you know that we appreciate and respect the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. We know the importance of it to Albuquerque and to the state of New Mexico and to the United States, because people know about New Mexico, about Albuquerque across the globe because of our fiesta. I don't think the green chili would really bring them in as much as our hot air balloons. But I gotta tell you, I learned something at the 50th anniversary of the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta in 2022, something that I never knew about. And you're going to learn about it on the program. We're going to find out, of course, we know that Albuquerque isn't the only place in the world that has a balloon fiesta, but did you know our pilots and even some of our crew members from New Mexico go to Thailand, India, China, France, and beyond to crew and to pilot balloons? I didn't know that. We're going to talk to a pilot from Australia, a crew chief right here from Albuquerque on the show, and we're going to learn some inside baseball or inside the gondola, inside the envelope right after this. Stay with us. We are going to have a fun show today. We're going to take you to China, Thailand, Australia, France, and beyond because of my guests have been there. You and I might not be able to make it to these places across the globe, but our guests today have, and they're going to share their experiences and share things we never knew about crewing, we never knew about balloon piloting. So please welcome my guest today. Thank you so much for coming. Craig Farrell from Canterbury, Australia. Canberra, Australia. Like our Santa Fe, it's the capital of your country, and of course Santa Fe is the capital of our state. Thank you so much for coming to Fiesta in 2022, and I know you've been here a number of times, and for being part of this program. And thanks, Jude Austin. I learned a lot from you, and you're right here in Albuquerque, but you've been globing, you've been crewing across the globe.
Yeah, very fortunate. I loved it. I started many years ago with an old friend of mine, and one day he asked me if I could be crew chief, and I said yeah, and I learned the ins and outs, and
right here in Albuquerque.
Right here in Albuquerque.
In our backyard.
And it wasn't until maybe 12, 13 years ago that I started. He asked me if I wanted to go abroad, and I was yeah, absolutely. So we went to Panama, and then from there we went to Thailand and China. That's where me and Craig met. Yeah. And it's been a great adventure, absolutely.
And the fact that people here in Albuquerque, I don't think, know that crew people such as yourself, right here, probably born and bred in New Mexico,
right,
are going all around, globetrotting around the world because of hot air balloons.
Because of hot air balloons, one, but because of the pilots mainly, because they're the ones that have to take that, take them with you. Yeah.
I guess I thought, Craig, here in New Mexico, we know we have a lot of crew people who come, and I mean, we have pilots who come and they need crew, and we know we hear volunteers are needed, so we have a lot of crew people right here from New Mexico who help the pilots. But when you fly abroad, what happens? What kind of crew do you have?
Often I'll turn up to a new country with no crew, and if I'm blessed, I'll have somebody like Jude. This is the first time Jude's crewed for me, and it's a new learning every time you crew for a different pilot.
Yeah.
We'll have our own little idiosyncrasies. I mean, the essence of it is all the same, but we all have different ways of doing things. So I'll often turn up with no crew.
Yeah.
And is that kind of true here too, Jude?
Absolutely.
Tell me what the process is for the pilots coming to our fiesta, and then we'll talk about those going to Thailand, China, Panama.
Right. So when the pilots come here and they have crew, the people that I've crewed with for many years, they're basically just friends, and they all show up And if people need help, all crew members are always willing to help any pilot pack up or put the balloon away or help him bring him back down to the ground safely. And it's like a family. And I was fortunate enough to be able to because of what I learned in ballooning, to be able to put the balloon together and check his work, and he would check my work, and we make sure that everybody's safe so before we take off, and make sure that all the crew is safe, and be able to, do what we do. It's an amazing thing, and it brings people together, and it's such a great quality for New Mexico to have the Balloon Fiesta here.
And you've come here, I believe, Craig, four or five times.
Yes.
Always you come without a crew.
Yes.
And the quality of people, they're not always New Mexicans that are helping you either. They're
That's
crew
right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So it depends where we go. I travel through Asia a lot, through Europe, India, Saudi Arabia. Not always are people able to speak English, and I feel quite ignorant and arrogant when I turn up in a new country. And it's not that I expect them to speak English, but there's an immediate language problem. And we need to make sure that certain things are done in a certain way. As Jude said, safety's number one. And we're able to do that, hand signals, demonstration and so forth. So we always find a way.
Find a way. But when you come to Albuquerque, it's your same language.
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you, Diane? You would think it's the same language, but I often find Jude looking at me blankly after I've spoken for 10 seconds. He has no clue what I just said, and he'll often interpret for me. So yes, it's the same language, but there are
But are
many
some
differences.
actually crew members here? They're not native English speakers? Some of your crew
Correct.
in Albuquerque?
Yes.
Folks come from all over the country to crew
Yes.
too?
They do.
Yeah.
And they volunteer, and they want to be able to be a part of it. And there's nothing like being part of a crew. It's entirely different than being a spectator, so to speak. So it's nothing like that, where these poor people have to get in line, and they drive, and they walk, and pay all this money to get in. And Fiesta is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But to be able to be a crew member, you get into a truck, you drive right on the field, and you're there earlier before everybody else. And you avoid all of that stuff. It's really a gift. It is, and it's awesome.
And we have in New Mexico, of course, in 2022, 2023, and beyond, we have maybe 650 balloons. So that means we need a lot of crew members, and there's always opportunities. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a tent where they can sign up to crew, and there's always somebody that needs help. And obviously the more crew, the better, because it makes everybody's job easier. Wrapping up a balloon is no easy task, even the smallest balloon.
How big is the envelope? How much does it weigh?
This one's around 110,000 cubic feet. So when I'm speaking to school children, I'll often explain to them that that's 110,000 basketballs would fit inside the envelope. It's a way of, visualising how large the envelope is. So the smallest envelope would be around 30,000 cubic feet, capable of carrying one person in a chair, not in a basket, with a tank strapped to the back. And the largest ones in Cappadocia would be 700,000 cubic feet.
700.
700, so 7 times the size of the Tiger that I'm flying.
So we often see here in New Mexico at the balloon field, maybe, the one person going up in a small envelope, and maybe we see 2 or 3, a pilot and maybe 2 or 3. And of
Yes.
course, the paid rides take a cattle call of about 10 or 20.
Yeah.
But you've seen in your travels how big of envelopes and how many people in the basket?
So over my city, 30 in Canberra would be the largest, 525,000 cubic feet. And there are larger ones in Cappadocia. So they'll take 35 people. There's many other variables as well. For example, in Albuquerque, we're already taking off at an elevation above sea level of 5,000 feet. So that alone has a major impact on the performance of the aircraft and limits the amount of capacity that we can take, payload.
Okay, but you've seen in other countries. And why don't we have bigger ones here, Jude?
Well, we're only limited on space. So can you imagine you'd be standing next to a skyscraper. And if you put it in perspective, you have ride balloons that carry so many people, but the bigger the envelope, the wider the space. So
we
And
couldn't
so
get our 650 into our field.
Well, you actually can, but we're not always sure where we're going to land, and in Albuquerque, often until we actually land. It can be as late as several seconds before we land, before we confident. So instead of having a 700,000 cubic foot envelope and 30 people flying over the city, and we've got a lot of defence installations here, international airport, there's a lot of sensitive areas, the Sandia Reservation, the Sandia Mountains, there's a lot of things that we need to not be near or fly over or land on.
Craig, you have flown in how many different festivals across the world? We named some of them: Panama, Thailand, China, France, India,
Saudi Arabia, Philippines, Malaysia,
Dubai.
I haven't flown a balloon in Dubai. So the more I travel, Diane, the more I realise I haven't been anywhere. It's quite an interesting thing. You know, when I first went to New Zealand and I went to Fiji, I thought I was a wonderful world traveller. And now here I am after however many festivals and countries, feeling like I haven't been anywhere. The more people I meet, the more I need to meet.
How do you compare our festival, 9 days, first week in October, high elevation, to some of these other festivals?
If I compare it directly to my festival at Canberra, we're at 1,800 feet above the ground compared to 5,000 feet above the ground when we take off. We fly over the capital city of Australia. We fly over, my standard flight pattern is straight over our White House, the Parliament House in the centre, which is very unusual. That wouldn't happen in many other countries.
No.
Many other.
They would not fly right over your capital.
No, and when I had my 3 American friends and 1 French person fly with me straight over our nation's capital and over the White House, they were quite concerned. They thought that we may possibly be shot out of the sky. They didn't realise this is quite a normal, every Saturday, Sunday, that's what I do. Many other differences, 650 balloons here, our largest festival, which is also in Canberra, 35 balloons. It's the largest festival in the nation. So you have 400 million people, we have 26 million.
We're going to show you pilot many different balloons. We're going to show a lot of the Tiger balloons, and we're going to show your launch right now. That's fascinating, but again, I want to learn how you met, but also I was fascinated to hear from you, Jude, that as a crew chief from Albuquerque, you had an opportunity to crew in all these other countries, which I wasn't aware that people were able to do that.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very fortunate, and the best thing about it is that when you go to these other countries, in most cases they give you crew members, and we don't speak their language, they don't speak ours. We have to have somebody interpreting, and you have to teach them how to handle the balloon and what to do and what not to do. So it's an amazing gift for me to be able to do this in my life. It's absolutely amazing.
Do you feel a lot of New Mexicans, people from Albuquerque, Santa Fe, know that crew people don't just crew here?
I absolutely think not a lot of people know that, because most of the time it's just, the pilot, where they fly internationally. And like Craig wouldn't bring his balloon to Albuquerque unless they paid for it to be transferred. But when we go to other countries, we fly other people's balloons. And that's what makes it amazing. And just the camaraderie and meeting people all over the world has been so
We're going to continue with that, but now tell me what we're seeing here, Craig.
We're seeing our first launch for the 50th anniversary of the Albuquerque Festival, and that lady I have in the basket had just accepted a ride only seconds before Jude's lovely partner decided to donate her space in the flight to this lady, Ali, who I met in Boise about 1 month ago. I'd never met this person before. She'd come up to say hi. As Marisa said, would you like to go for a flight? And Ali hopped in. She's an official photographer for the festival, and a lovely person.
And a media, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd never met her before, and this is what happens. 2 people that crewed for me in Plano in Texas last week. I'd never met them before, but they were referred to me by a wonderful friend, Mona Lamont, who's from Albuquerque. Yeah. And this is what happens all over the world. I call Jude and say, do you know anybody in insert name?
Yeah.
How did you two meet and where?
We met in China. Just very lovingly there. It was
China, come on, Jude.
Yeah. It's a small world.
It's a small world.
Is that a world? A big world.
Yeah.
It's a big world, but it's also a very small world, and you meet people, and when I was in Japan, I ran into a friend of mine from high school in a karaoke bar. But meeting him...
But in China, you told me, because you spoke at least the same language. When you're in China, it wasn't hard to find English speakers. You kind of congregated with.
Well, we all had our accountability buddies, and we all got to know each other. He was with his daughter, and I was with another pilot, my buddy Nick, And it was a definitely amazing experience, especially to be in China, because it's a definitely a more foreign country than Thailand or
which is often
any
the
other
point.
place.
We're often entertained and invited by the government of the nation that we're flying in. So, the Philippines government will invite us to the Philippines, and we get very privileged access to a lot of launch and landing sites,
Right.
and many other privileges while we're there.
Yeah.
And the same is true in China.
Yeah. And in China, when we had our crew, they brought us very elderly men to crew for us. Very, very elderly
That
men.
happens all over the world.
Yeah, it does happen all over the world. And, and having that language barrier, it really made it, it made it a little difficult, but it was well worth it.
Mike's going to show us more of the tiger footage that I shot at Fiesta, so we can see the balloons. Now, the special shapes, tiger, is not your balloon,
No.
but you pilot for it.
Yes.
The owner of that owns a number of special shapes. I
Yes.
believe he's from, take a look at this.
Do you want me to explain what's happening here? And we can talk a little bit about the shape. What you'll find in every special shape is that at the core there is a normal teardrop-shaped balloons. And I can explain why the balloon is teardrop-shaped. Everything that's not shaped like a teardrop is then added fabric and added weight, as is the cold air inside that. So I'm starting to describe some of the difficulties, and here we are here, popping up through some of the baffles, Diane, you'll recall going in through these little circles here, which helps direct the cold air and the heated air into different sections so the tiger can keep his shape, so he doesn't look like an elephant or a flamingo. Or a normal balloon.
Yeah.
And there's a series of Velcros that we didn't see in that footage there that we can release and seal up to assist the ease of the setup and the pack up, because there's many nooks and crannies, some of which you can see in the footage there.
What can we see here?
You can see anything that's not just a smooth shape like the top of the tiger just there. You see right up up towards the left-hand side, and some of those holes that you and I were popping through. And then on the outside of that, there are Velcros that we can release and then release hot air, as there is a very large circle at the top of the balloon as well, which is the primary release mechanism for all of the hot air when we're finished flying.
Dude, that's you.
Yeah, that is me.
That's the circle I was just talking about, where those lovely local children were, and we invited them in. So this is the top of the balloon that most pilots would call a parachute, and that's the primary deflation mechanism. So I'll make a habit wherever I am in the world of inviting children in particular, but that then draws the parents, which might provide a little ulterior motive depending on where I am. For instance, they can help us with some of the manual work. There you are. You just learned a secret.
Yeah.
It's one of our
I
trade
saw
secrets.
you were very gracious, because I said, excuse me, but you were directing the children.
Yes.
And you're very gracious to them. I thought, wow, he's really gracious to these
Yeah.
kids. I've got some questions. And you were nice to come then back to me. You said, you have a question? I said, yeah, I'd like to interview you on my TV show.
Yeah, and at that stage, Diane, I didn't know you, and I didn't need to know you, and I don't need to know who you are and where you're from until we need to know. So
But
you
it
could
was-
be a teacher, you could be a doctor, and you're now a TV presenter. And this is a signature of Jude and myself. We are here to entertain and make people happy. And the balloon is the vehicle that we use to do that.
And I can say that firsthand, because I saw you in action with all these little kids offering to show them inside. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
So they'll often, the children will approach us and they'll ask for a card. Fiesta provides many thousands of these cards, and if we weren't careful, we would distribute those in the first 20 minutes of the Fiesta.
Easily.
They're extremely popular.
Yeah. Extremely.
And so the children will often approach, do you have a card? And then I often will invite them to come into the balloon and touch the balloon and have a much richer experience.
You're gracious. I saw you passing out the cards as well at the Fiesta 2022. But you have a big job to do, but still had time to visit with everybody.
I'm so sorry.
And now you're being contacted. But you had time, Jude, as the crew chief, to visit with folks as well.
I did. The children are amazing. I'm so sorry about this. The children are amazing, and it's mainly for them and the adults, and all the people from all over the world, and they absolutely they're amazed. And being in other countries where most children will never see a balloon again. That is the most wonderful thing, right, Craig?
Correct, yeah.
Going to Thailand, some out in villages or anywhere else when you're landing and stuff, these children will never ever see another balloon again.
Yep.
So we take it for granted here.
Yeah.
Because we see it so often.
That's right. It takes us back to 1783 when the first balloon was launched, and they didn't know how to steer and where to go, and so they landed out in the fields in the middle of nowhere and were greeted by French peasants that thought they were aliens. So there was no language problem, but the people, the farmers that saw this aircraft land were very frightened and thought they might have been aliens. And it's not too different when we land in the middle of India and China. Yeah. They've never seen a balloon before.
No.
Yes, they've never seen a balloon. So I'll land in a remote area of India. I mean, India is one of the largest nations on earth. Over 1 billion people, but they haven't seen people like me, and they have not seen or conceived of a hot air balloon. And we land in the field where they're working, and the children are working and playing, and they're a mixture of frightened and intrigued. And it takes a bit of coaching to get them to come over, and that's how we make friends all over the world.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What other stories do you have, Jude, from around the world? Again, we take it for granted here in New Mexico. We're able to go and touch the baskets, see the envelope spread out, but this experience of international experiences that you've had, what can you share with us who haven't had those?
Mostly just flying all over the world, and in most cases, as a crew chief, I stay on the ground with my crew. And there are a lot of lucky times where I've been able to fly and meet just lovely and amazing people. It's truly a gift for all New Mexicans to be able to enjoy this, because a lot of people are used to it. But for other people, I've always told people, if you go around the world, you can appreciate humanity better. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing thing. Because of what we're able to do. We bring that happiness all over the world. And people are amazing just to see us and to be there. And to have friends like Craig and my old friend Nick. I mean, I know people from all over the world. And it's just because I've been able to do this. And, I work here in New Mexico. I'm just a regular guy. I drive an old truck, and I try to be as simple as I can. But when it comes to Fiesta, that's my 1 week to just absolutely shine, and we love it.
Yeah. So, I mean, for instance, Diane, you've heard us say many times we feel very privileged, and we like to share that privilege as much as we can with people that would otherwise never get the chance. And when I talk about privilege, I'm talking about flying within a foot or two. I'm from the metric system I'm trying to convert. So within a foot or two of the pyramids in Teotihuacan in Mexico, flying within a foot or two of amazing Nebuchadnezzar tombs in Saudi Arabia. Nobody gets the chance to do that. It's incredible. Landing in rice fields in Vietnam and the Philippines. These are the stuff of dreams, and we do not ever take this for granted. Ever.
I don't.
Launching from the forecourt of an 800-year-old palace in Vietnam. Often these places are not even accessible by, normal people, which is, I'm trying to get across the privilege, the extreme privilege, and we never take that for granted.
And, I meet a lot of different people, and I met some folks in a restaurant the other day. They were just sitting, and they saw my jacket, and they were just like, "Are you a pilot?" I says, "No, I'm just a crew chief." And we were talking, and they said, "We just got here from Hawaii." And I says, "I'm going to give you my number, okay? And if I don't have anybody in the truck, I'll put you in the truck, and I'll drive you on the field. And you guys can come and see it for yourself."
What a gift. What a gift.
It is. And that's how I've met a lot of different people.
And the fact that, Jude, New Mexicans, because it's in our backyard, can be a part of it. And it was interesting. They say, "Oh, I don't want to get up that early." Well, open the world to you to get up that early, and they could have an opportunity like both of you have.
Yes.
And it's amazing what we can do just to say, like Craig, he says, "Come over here. You guys want to get in the basket?" Even when we're not flying, to put the children in the basket and the kids to take a picture. And a lady comes up today, she goes, "I'll never get this close." I said, "Do you want to get in?" And she goes, I can't get in. I says, you can get in.
You do all of that.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah, we
All
go
the
out of
time.
our way to do it.
Fantastic ambassadors, even with those tiger.
Diane, these are wonderful tiger ears that
Your
I
tiger
thought
ears.
they'd look much better on you, I believe.
Let's try it. So, in addition, we're showing the launch again. How
What a wonderful launch that is. You know, I'm not sure how many balloons were in the sky at that point and how many more were following us, but, you know, 600 balloons, it's just incredible. It never gets old. I never get sick of that. And to be able to launch an aircraft, I still feel like a young child as that just drifts magically over the landscape with no visible means of propulsion.
and you've flown. Tell me the types, the special shapes you have flown, Craig.
Oh, well, my first one, incidentally, was here in Albuquerque many years ago. It was a fireman shape, and that was designed after September 11, and that was a very emotional time for myself, my wife, who cried when I took off with the American flag underneath. We were selected as the shape of the day, so first aircraft out of the field and the American flag, and my wife was extremely emotional, much more so than she is at home with our anthem.
Yeah.
But you've done the what other shapes? And we've got just
frog?
50 seconds to go.
A frog?
The frog.
Yeah, a unicorn. Help me here, Jude. The sloth. That's a real crowd
The
pleaser.
frog, the sloth, the
lion.
unicorn,
Yeah.
of course the tiger,
So,
and
yeah, many shapes.
the chili
Thank you.
ristras. I mean,
Everything.
Everything.
And thank you for watching and being a part of this program. And the viewers out there, if you meet Craig or Jude on the field, they're going to talk to you. They're going to
Come
let
say
you
hi.
maybe sit in the basket and at least get a card. It's
Yes.
fantastic. Thank you so much for being a part of this program, but also both of you for being a part of our fiesta. You've added so much to our state, to our city, and to our fiesta for your personalities and your ambassadorship for the sport of ballooning.
Thank
True
you.
pleasure.
Absolute pleasure.
true pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Oh, we got to do our claws. Yay!
Thank you.
Craig Farrell, Jude Austin, thanks so much. And thanks KCHF TV for bringing you this program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. You make it a great week with your family. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinnewater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.